Okay, great. Thanks to Nokashita, not the rumor website, but the actual reliable website that leaked all this information, Nokashita. We have the full detailed specs on the new Fujifilm X-H1, and I have the images. They're high-resolution images, and the links below. And by the way, can we actually harken back to a little over half a year ago, roughly, when Fujifilm came out with two video lenses for Sony mount? And I told people back then, Fuji's not coming out with these lenses for Sony. Oh, they're made for Sony, but rather they're going to use these lenses later on for their own pro video camera. And I was the only one saying it at that point in time, and of course I was 100% accurate. People love to point out the few times you get stuff wrong, but if you get something right, they'll just tell you that was just a lucky accident, or you just anyway, so let's get on to the full detail specifications. First off, let's start by saying the one thing that everybody keeps asking me. What is, and I'll get to the detailed specs. Sometimes you say something slightly humorous and it sticks in people's mind. By the way, the Fujifilm X-H1 has the same battery and same sensor as the Fujifilm X-T2. Let's get that out of the way before we get the detailed specs, because I know that's the first thing people want to know. Is that if the Fujifilm GFX had sex with the X-T2 and they had a love child, it would be the new X-H1, almost literally. We have essentially the guts of the Fujifilm X-T2, except for the IBIS sensor, which is perfect for video use. I've always said IBIS is incredibly useful for video. And then we have the body of the GFX. The same compensation, however, the button is different, as you can actually see from the images. We actually have the replace of the compensation, exposure compensation dial with a very, very useful, and I find incredibly useful, screen. They call this actually the sub-command screen on the GFX, which is programmable. So that will be identical on the X-H1 as it is on the large GFX. So no, the body size is nowhere near as big as the GFX. So it's the new X-H1 is a mini-me body of the Fujifilm GFX that contains the guts of the Fujifilm X-T2 with obviously many additions. The back button autofocus, it has a large back button autofocus just like on a Nikon, which everybody was asking for. Back button autofocus of a Nikon or a Canon, with the addition of up to 5 stops of IBIS, perfect for video use and other pro video features. So in short, the X-H1 is a miniature body GFX camera, miniature, okay, not the same size, GFX is a huge camera, with the guts of the X-T2, not entirely, obviously so, since it has IBIS and other pro advanced features, better processing, and Fujifilm specifically states faster autofocus, that has been taking pro video steroids. So that's kind of a humorous way to accurately define. It's like, well, where the hell, because everybody kept asking me, since these specifications, a few specifications were leaked on the rumor site, but all the real information was leaked on the Nokashita site, what is the X-H1 and where exactly does it sit? Well, it sits as the sister to the photography cameras of the GFX. This is Fujifilm's adventure into a hybrid integration of the body of the GFX in miniature with the pro video feature capabilities that people were asking for, along with existing 24 megapixel crop sensor, no optical low pass filter, i.e. anti-moire filter, of the X-T2, with the addition of IBIS and pro video features. So let's actually get to the specifications. Like I said, 24 megapixel sensor, same as the X-T2, AVC H264, ISO 200 to 12,800, 3-axis sensor stabilization, 3-axis gyro sensor, up to 5-axis stabilization, which is possible with all XF and XC lenses. There's a reason too, when they actually show the X-H1 with the new 16 to 55, I said over a year ago, I said this lens is incredibly quiet, it's for video. While this 18 to 55 is a wonderfully sharp lens, it's pretty damn noisy, and it is highly unideal for video use. And that's the reason why the leaked images of the X-H1 are shown with the 16 to 55. So if you wanted a hardcore rationalization for that big-ass 16 to 55 Fujifilm f2.8, this is it. I knew even back then, Fujifilm developed this for use on a future video camera, and I stated that because it is incredibly quiet. So, up to 5-axis image stabilization. Electronic first curtain shutter availability. Nice added feature. Same batteries, as I said, as the XT2. It is going to come with a vertical grip. Let's talk about that in a second. This is Fujifilm's own information. Camera fits perfectly into Fujifilm Cine lenses. You have the MKX 18 to 55 T2.9, that's a T-stop of 2.9, and the MKX 50 to 135 T2.9 for the X bayonet mount. So obviously it takes the same lens as the XT2. And those video lenses that have been out for some time now from Fujifilm, available in Sony mount, are obviously now going to be available for Fujifilm X mount on the X-H1 for pro video use. Also, too, compatibility with the new upcoming 200mm f2 and the new upcoming 8 to 16mm f2.8. Additionally, both these cameras have magnesium chassis. Upgrades have been done to the X-H1 body. It's going to have an extra beefy, super sturdy magnesium alloy chassis, which is supposed to be a quarter thicker than the current XT2. So, also, too, a much tougher, I believe it's powder coat. They actually gave some jargon from Fujifilm in the specifications, but I believe it's just powder coating, which is, if I actually take a sharp fingernail, I could actually scratch the coating on the XT2. It's pretty tough, but this makes it really tough. I don't know if you know what powder coating is, but it's some really tough stuff. Camera, the X-H1 affords a Cine 4K recording in 17:9 formats, DCI 14K. It's 4K 30p camera essentially. I got the images below and the complete specifications. X-H1 autofocus features have an improved algorithm that significantly improves the accuracy and autofocus speed for low light situations. Thus, the sensitivity of phase detect autofocus has been improved. By 1.5 stops from 0.5 to -1. Awesome. So now it could be used with lenses with an aperture up to f11, for example, the 100 to 400mm Fujifilm lens, that big honking lens. And additionally so with its teleconverter. It's going to have a vertical battery grip. It's not going to be exactly the same as it's going to be a proprietary battery grip called the VPB X-H1, just like this, a vertical battery grip on the GFX. Designed exclusively for the X-H1, maximized performance, blah blah blah. Obviously a stereo jack on the vertical grip, so you have to get the vertical grip. I know it has 15 minutes of recording with the camera in 4K, by the way, with the camera only, and 30 minutes with the vertical grip. So you need the vertical grip for 30 minutes of max 4K 30p recording. Additional minimization on blackout time, and extending around 30 minutes, which we already know that. I got specifications. I could go over a lot of boring specs that'll actually put people to sleep. The main thing actually to draw from it, other than what it looks like, and it looks exactly like a miniature GFX. There's actually a perfect. Now everybody says, well, how does this fit in with the XT3? Well, I mean the XT3. As I've said, and everybody says I'm, well, you're just speculating. Well, my speculation will be proven accurate. It should be a 28 megapixel backside illuminated sensor. There'll be plenty enough differentiation from the XT3 over the X-H1, that someone would be impelled to, depending on the person, to purchase the XT3. But it's actually a perfect. Very importantly, the price, 1,899 euros. It could be, now that's euros, it could be the same price in bucks, but it could be, and this has happened in the past with not only Nikon and Canon, it could come out as the same price as the XT2 came out for at $1,699. Now it could, so it is being listed as 1,899 euros. But I don't know if that's final price. But I mean, I knew. I'm not going to say that. But yeah, I'll cut myself off there for a second. Here we go. I'll edit that out later. Yeah, $18.99. So even if that's euros, and if it's dollars, and I think it's actually going to be lower than that. But even if it's not, but I mean, what it is actually perfect from a logical standpoint of what people have been asking for. You have the back button auto and a big back button autofocus. One thing I noticed too when a rumor website was leaking out very, very partial minor information a few days ago, I always like to look at what people are talking about. And the one thing that actually amazed me is that so many people were pissed or amazed that they removed, like, oh my god, they removed the exposure compensation dial. Really? So they replaced and removed the exposure compensation dial, and they gave you instead, and by the way, there's an illumination button if you see the images on the X-H1, exactly the same as on the GFX here, which is also customizable. You actually have to go into menus, so this will be the same on the GFX as it will be on the X-H1. You could go into menus, go into screen setup, and then go into it's all the way at the bottom, sub-monitor settings, and you can customize 4 different parameters down here to make it look, see whatever it is you want it to show. I mean, you have a lot of different options for what's important to you. So it's, you know, an exposure compensation on the X-H1, while the button is different, is right here. I mean, you just press it in and you rotate your front and rear command dial, you know, to change your exposure compensation. So you would rather have an exposure compensation dial, which I never use on the XT2, by the way. I set it to C, and that way I could actually press my front command button to go over to compensation and then scroll wherever I want my exposure comp to be. So I actually never rotate the dial in this. So you would rather have this exposure comp dial than a customizable, illuminated, you know, very, very helpful screen? No, and it actually should be exactly the same size, even though the X-H1 is much, I know it will be, much smaller than the GFX. The actual screen itself should be exactly identical to this on the GFX. I have no idea why people were so amazed at that. You know, they were amiss that the exposure compensation dial was missing off the X-H1. And importantly so, a programmable function button back here, large with a concave or dome on it, on the X-H1 has been given back button autofocus, which 10 bazillion Fujifilm users have been asking for years now, and Fujifilm gave people exactly what they wanted. Another company that actually listens to its customers, unlike Nikon and Canon. So let me know if you have any questions. I'll post the images below. So it's supposed to be announced on the 15th of February for release in March. I don't know when in March, or the first week in March. I told people over half a year ago, I said, you know, Fujifilm is coming out with these lenses. You know, these cine lenses, these 2 cine lenses, not for Sony. Like Fujifilm just had an idea. It's like, let's make lenses for Sony. Like, no. They're doing that. They're releasing the lenses, but for eventual release on their own pro video camera, which of course they'd already been basically, well, 6 months ago, they would have already been in probably full production on the X-H1 at that point, probably stockpiling warehouses with X-H1s to be delivered. So that's really it, and that is where the X-H1 sits. It's the sister child to Fujifilm's photography cameras. And the sister child is a hybrid. Said the body, a miniature body of the GFX, with essentially the guts, however, greatly improved, with an IBIS sensor for video use, which is so important for video. With the guts, essentially, the dual SD cards, the same battery as the XT2. This group profile, which is identical, although smaller, on the X-H1, I mean, I think most people are going to be incredibly happy with it. I mean, Fujifilm above Nikon and Canon and Sony. I mean, Sony has the worst ergonomics on planet Earth. I mean, undeniably so. Fujifilm certainly went to their consumers probably before, secretly, obviously, you know, test driving the new ergos and settings and menus and placement on their new X-H1 before bringing it into full production. I wish Nikon and Canon and Sony would do that, not that I really care. So I think everybody's actually going to be really happy with that. The price point is incredible. So now people have a pro video camera that's going to be just a wee bit bigger than the XT2. It's going to have its own proprietary vertical grip. It's going to have IBIS, a huge back button autofocus. It's going to have the body of the GFX, so it's going to be a miniature GFX with XT2 guts and then some. that's been taking pro video steroids. That's basically sums up what the X-H1 is for an extremely reasonable price point. Not that I know the price on the vertical grip, but obviously it should be the exact same bloody price as the grip on the XT2. You know, somewhere around $350, $400. You know, and obviously all the batteries you have for your XT2 and XT20 are going to fit and work in the X-H1, so no new batteries to buy. No new type of card formats. This is going to be dual SD cards. The images on the camera are actually really sexy. Most of the people that were kind of remiss at the images on the new X-H1, you know, have not had their hands on a GFX. Just a smaller GFX like this, with this really, which is actually quite reminiscent of the grip that's found on the Nikon D750 and D500, is almost very universally extremely beloved, so I think people are going to be really happy for it. And when I get rid of an exposure compensation wheel, which I never turn anymore because there's a C setting on it, you know, when I get rid of an exposure compensation wheel to have this incredibly useful screen, which I've been using for over a year now on the GFX, which is also programmable for important information, and which, like on the X-H1, has a push button for illumination and dark situation. Hell yeah, I'll trade the exposure compensation for this. I was surprised that people were like unhappy with that. I don't like that LCD on the top. Why? Use it. You know, if you use it, you know, you would actually like it. But anyway, there we go. The Fujifilm X-H1. Well, the price is really good. Actually, it's not really good. It's actually excellent. If you think about it, if someone were to have just one camera, so I do video and photography, and I want IBIS, and I need IBIS for my video use, and so I've got improved. It's a much beefier chassis, powder coated. What are the other really main features? Yeah, powder coated, beefier chassis. Same battery as the XT2. That's wonderful. 4K 30p. I mean, that's an excellent choice. And so Fujifilm, you know, doesn't. I hope they don't. I'm not upset at me making this video. I'm only giving out the information that was released by Nokoshita. It's not like I'm giving out inside information. All of this stuff is publicly exploding as I speak right now. So there we go. There's the Fujifilm X-H1, the sister camera. Really, and that's what it is. It's the love child of the GFX and the XT2. So it's a little bit bigger than the XT2, a lot smaller than the GFX, has this body, and yeah, I think I made that pretty clear. That's where the X-H1 is. And if you think about it logically, you know, and go, like this for about 5 minutes, you'll go, that makes a lot of sense. I can see exactly why Fujifilm did this. And that was certainly my conclusion as well. Thank you so much for watching. Namaste. Aloha. Увидимся. Пока. Aloha. All that crap.